right away, see how much faster we are at this already since this morning. What do the students need to learn? And you've noticed, if we fill in that blank, I have noticed that we need to be reading with more fluency, right? They want to read faster, we want to be able to go faster. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. Now, Sherry, you talked about one strategy that you know.
Yeah, like when they're reading and you're sitting side by side, you could show them this, like all the cards, we're getting ready for the race to Hilltop Park, and you move it, you know what I mean? So that their eyes, so that they're looking at more than
Word by word,
that they're moving, and you try to find, well, the racing car looked at the little blue cars and the big green car. I will win the race, he said. It just kind of forces them
To get their eyes
moving more cross print and taking it in chunks, like in word, like instead of individual letters and words, you're trying to get them to see the chunks in words. You're also trying to get them to see the chunks in the sentences, just to be more fluent. You just need a little card like this and just try it.
That's an external mediator that you can pull in for kids that specifically need it. And that might be good something for Andy, okay?
Right.
But like for Madison, doesn't really need that.
You can show her
Right.
what period is.
Well, and that's what Nancy and I showed with her. We asked her where do you have to start reading and where do you actually have to stop? Because she does have
She
knowledge,
knows.
right, of where a period is and then you stop. So she said, well, I have to start here and I have to stop there. Okay, now try that. Okay, and I want to hear you do it. Now she did okay. We did a split dialogue though after that, and that was a little bit harder. So again, she could do it here, but when you did the split dialogue, that was a little bit harder for her. So again, but she's not going to get that necessarily in one spot. She's going to need that reminding often.
Yes.
But I think it would, I think that's what they're doing, at least in my head, and Madison read this just fine. She had some errors. I don't know how your kids did.
Independent.
Yeah.
It was independent.
Again, though, I think, at least from my looking at what Madison was doing and things like that, I was looking at it where, especially on the arrow part, where I know it was great that they did what you wanted them to do, but did they need to? You know what I mean? Did they need to go to row and then to air? Because all of that actually then
It
stopped
worked
the
for
reading.
Andrew, but didn't work for
Right, and even for Andrew,
Yeah.
it slows him down by having to, so you want him to break apart words, but you want him to do it
fast.
really
Yeah.
fast.
That's the only thing he
because
saw in the word. He didn't even
Right.
see the A at the beginning.
No.
I said, well, get your mouth ready to start the first word. He said R.
Right,
And he didn't even notice the
the A in front of it.
Well,
so
wait,
he was
he's
pretty-
looking at the
R.
AR. He's
R.
thinking right
R.
here.
That's true, yeah.
But, another thing that I was thinking though, and is Andrew the one I worked with? Okay, well, that's good though.
Yeah, that's what I was trying
But-
to get him to notice it.
Have him actually looking at, have them actually looking, you supplied all the background knowledge for them for this, but they check the picture at difficulty. But how about if we thought about having them check the picture before the start? Say, what's going on in this picture right now? What's actually happening? They went this way, Candy's following this way. This whole concept of this arrow going on right there, they did not see the arrow. But what they were doing is they're down at that word level going, the little blue cars, well, right now they're not really thinking, the little blue cars did not go the right way. Well, why not? Why aren't they going the right way?
So if they could have been more fluent on that first sentence and understood it.
They wouldn't have had to go down to, this is row, this is add,
So
this
when I
is,
had him go back rereading, he was going back to the they. I should have prompted him to go all the way.
Possibly, but I'm trying to think about what was said, and I didn't write it all down. Thinking about, I don't know, what do you guys think?
Are you saying like on the picture walk, like Nancy did with the scuba or the circle, kind of concentrate more on like that page, make it a difficulty, let's look at this one.
And I didn't know arrow would give him that
Addiction,
difficulty.
right.
And that's
Like
why I
so
write it
they
down.
Yeah.
But it won't, the next group either.
Right,
So
right.
that's the thing,
Yeah.
you can't pre-teach the whole book, but,
And it's good for me to not pre-teach everything, so I want to see what they're having to do.
Right,
like you were right, Hilltop.
Hilltop they got.
Yes, and they did.
And you were right on that. So, again, I was just thinking that, because even, they don't seem to be actually looking at the picture before they even start reading. I think they just are plowing into the words.
Okay.
And then it's down at that word level. I'm thinking if they just took a minute, but I think that's gonna be something that you actually have to teach them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, because they're thinking they don't need to, because you already walked through the book with them.
Do they do picture walks by themselves, like an independent one? Because I usually just give my kids a book and they, do their own
Sometimes.
picture walk. Yeah, because then they would look at it more, like you're saying, right? You're saying have them look at the picture.
But there was such great conversation that when she was doing that, they were really engaged in it. They were really engaged, but then they didn't use that after.
Another thing I thought of was that they're not making the connection that arrow is pointing to the finish.
Right. I was just thinking that arrow was very meaningful there. It was more of a meaning instead of,
And I know his eyes were on that sign when he was stuck on arrow. They were on that sign, but I don't think he could recall
The word
what
arrow.
the shape
That's what it was.
Right.
What is
Arrow.
that shape?
Yeah.
His eye,
Yeah.
he was so fixated on it, he wasn't even looking at the text anymore.
okay.
I'm like, I see you looking
So
at
then,
it.
so then is he,
The recall.
Well,
Kyle
it's
was
recall.
like that too.
Yeah.
well, see, because what I'd like them to do, wouldn't you like them, because instead of at difficulty, check the picture, to have that already in their head so that they're concentrating on what's being said over here. Because I think that's what, the constant going back and forth, here he's studying this
Yeah, he was.
and he's lost this now.
Mhm.
Now he's got to come back and try to figure that out. And I know when we worked with him before too, we talked about that.
But you did get the compound word.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was the one area.
Right.
that
That we were working,
So-
we've been working a lot with him.
When I was trying to help him with that word, I wasn't even gonna tell him the word row was in it. He just
He
saw
said
it.
it.
I was
saw it.
shocked.
And I,
was
that actually, I was like,
shocked.
okay, at least
He
he's got
did it, yes.
something.
Yeah.
I
was
actually got
too.
something. Yeah. 'cause
And you
it's-
did, and I would have done the
To
same
know
thing.
the OWC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have done the same thing, but get your mouth ready and get going, because all you have to do is go, okay,
He
yeah.
did really, because Denise and I did the whole book. He did very well. Like when he had words that were wrong, it was like get the word you and he said the word there.
What page was that on?
But he
He
self-corrected
self-corrects.
immediately. Though. He doesn't
Okay.
even need to go
Back
back.
and
He's like no, he said it and then but he doesn't. I guess I think if he's having trouble sounding out the words or figuring them out, he'd be going like. He does not
He
do
doesn't.
that
No,
Okay.
at
he
all.
just stops.
Not at all.
He
But
just-
he did great though. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't.
He didn't-
For this one book, yeah. I mean, his fluency was slow, but otherwise, he did really
So
well.
usually if it comes to a word he doesn't know, he just stops. I don't know
And
if
the
you've
only-
noticed that too. He just stops. And
Smile
then I'm
was
always
the
like
only
trying, hey, at least get
one
your
we had to
lips
help him with.
ready to say the first sound. I have to always tell him that. Get your lips ready to say the, because he'll just stop and he just won't do a
Smile was
thing.
the only one, but otherwise, he did well. Good.
And the only thing I noticed was that finger came out when he was getting nervous, not sure about himself. He was,
Yeah, he was doing that when I was reading.
And then he goes down to choppiness.
yes.
Yeah.
So we gotta get rid of that finger,
Right.
get that fluency in different chunks.
So are you still thinking, what are you thinking?
I know I can't move him up and that's, I've been
Mhm.
stuck in H's and working on fluency and.
So do the other kids stop and really look at, because I guess I think about if they're stopping, if it's the words that they're having trouble with, they're really stopping and looking at each, like my Julia tomorrow, will stop at like the word right, she'll do I mean, she will look at every
Do that
single letter.
anymore.
But they don't, he didn't do that, and I guess I'm wondering, do the other kids do that? Is it that they're getting stuck on a word, or are they not, is it the fluency? You know what I mean?
Right, or, because, well, we talked about that with Tice. Remember, he had to go and sound out make? He knows make, but it was the structure of that sentence, and it went into dialogue. So depending on where the word is in the sentence, it could be the fluency, because it's not making sense anymore, they're too choppy, so then they have to go down to that word level to try to figure out the words. Or is it the word in itself?
Right.
So that's what the tricky part is, and that's why we're trying to do the running records, to see, when do they go down to that word level and why? Because you don't want them to go down to the word level a lot, because that will ruin the fluency, which will ruin the comprehension, which, they can't bring it back up.
Here's the thing I wonder. We look at providing instruction at a child's level, and supporting them at that level, and growing from we've got a group of students that they've been at H, and they've been at H all year. Is that a group that we go back to and rescaffold, rather than look at moving them ahead where they're still having those challenges at H's? Do we move them back to G's and provide some support at that level to bring them back up?
Well,
haven't been at H's.
Yeah, well, they started at G.
they started at G's, and then we moved
But
to
we
H.
moved to H and we've been
Let's,
there.
you know what, let's just quick look at the continuum.